What's going on, fellow YouTubers? So I'm here today to talk to you about a part that I just replaced. Now, to make this simple, as you see, the alternator was replaced today. You can't get no simpler than this. The tensioner's right there. Okay? Use a 3/8 or whatever. It's a size 15 bolt. You go you go clockwise to loosen the belt, pull the belt off. Okay? Boom. These two bolts right here, 1, 2, take those out and pull the alternator out. A size 10 bolt on the back side, that power wire that powers the battery to charge it, and then unplug this. It's literally just a clip that you just, it's a push pin, you just clip it and pull it off. Boom. Alternator's done. My issue is that this brand new alternator that I had got from Advanced Auto by CarQuest didn't work. Okay, my original alternator went bad, had the symptoms, I knew it was bad, did the test. My original alternator was bad. Came back, first alternator that I had got, this is actually the second one. The first one I had got was actually the wrong one. It fit, everything worked except for the connector, because this is an 06 Yukon Denali. 06 is when they switched over from the 4-prong to the 2-prong alternator regulators. And it's a completely different system as far as the regulators. There's no adapter, there's no finessing, there's no bypassing this. If you have a 4-prong alternator, get the 4-prong alternator replacement. If you have a 2-prong alternator, get a 2-prong alternator replacement. There's no switching or adapting a 2-prong to a 4-prong or a 4-prong to a 2-prong. Just get the right alternator. Back to my alternator issue. I put this in, everything plugged up, but it wasn't charging. So I'm like, wow, straight out the box, this thing still isn't working. I'm thinking it's wiring. I'm thinking that it's something else wrong. Checking fuses, I'm checking wires and everything. First thing I did was got my multimeter out and I checked my battery. I barely had 12 volts in here. This battery cable right here goes from here to this power block down here, which most Chevy trucks, GMC, Chevy, whatever, usually have these blocks where the power wire connects to this little power block, and then it powers the starter wire that goes down the back side of the block and everything to the starter, and then this is the power wire that comes from the battery. Okay, now this wire right here, don't worry about the red one, that's my amp wire. This wire right here is the alternator wire that charges the battery. So I tested 12 volts from the end of this wire at the battery post all the way here to this power block. I got 12 volts, okay? I tested from here, from the power block, up this wire to the back side of the alternator, and I got 12 volts. This is all with the truck off. The truck was not running. I got 12 volts throughout my whole wiring system to the back side of the alternator. That tells me that my wiring is good and I got my voltage from the battery to the alternator. I started the truck up and I ran it. The voltage never changed from the back side of the alternator to the power block or from the power block to the battery. So that told me the alternator was not charging my battery. So I'm thinking it's something deeper than what I'm believing that it is. But exactly how I just explained it to you, there's nothing else in between the alternator and the battery. And from what I hear, even if you unplug the regulator, the alternator should still work. The regulator just regulates the battery as far as how much voltage is being detected from the battery. Once the battery is fully charged, the regulator regulates how much power comes out of the alternator. Once it's charged up, the alternator kind of adjusts the voltage that is coming out of it so it's not overcharging the battery, okay? Therefore, it was something inside of the alternator that went bad, and I'll show you. That little guy right there. That little connection right there with the dielectric grease on it. That right there. That piece was completely split apart. Kind of like somebody cut it in half. The issue is that I had to solder that together. Why? Because that is where the windings from the inside, these windings from the inside connects from the alternator to the voltage regulator. This is the voltage regulator right here.
The windings come out of here from the back side of the alternator and go into the voltage regulator. And because that connection was cut, or it wasn't connected, the power wasn't coming from the alternator and going through the regulator. It was just completely cut off. So it wasn't able to charge the battery. So what I did was I got my little cheap Harbor Freight soldering tool and I soldered that connection together, and boom, it's charging now. As you see, 14 volts. Sorry about the music. It's just crazy that you pay 200 and something amount of dollars for a remanufactured alternator, and they say it's tested and proven, passed, guaranteed on the box, lifetime warranty, and then you get a part and you put it on the vehicle and it doesn't even work. So that tells me, are they really testing these things? I don't believe so, because if they tested them, why is it not working out of the box? Can't trust everything you see, man. It's just crazy. It's ridiculous. I just hope people, don't get ripped off by stuff like this. I wouldn't have been able to have gone to swap this out for another one, because the only store that had that alternator was only about 5 miles from here, and that was the only store that had one. The only other store that had one was about 30 miles out, and I wasn't driving 30 miles to go swap this alternator out. Let alone I wasn't able to, because this being my only source of transportation. On top of this being my only source of transportation, it's 11:30 at night. There are no stores that are open right now for me to even go swap this thing out. So I had to figure out what was going on. Luckily, I'm some mechanically inclined, to be able to do this, but for people that aren't, this would suck. They would be stranded. So I hope this helps somebody out there. Hopefully, you guys don't get got by the faulty parts, brand new, remanufactured, whatever you want to call it. You spend your hard-earned money on stuff, you would expect it to work. It just sucks that this happened, but I'm glad I figured it out. So I hope that this helps out other people, man. You guys stay safe out there.